H. Holmes, originally named Herman Webster Mudgett, came into the world on May 16, 1861, in Gilmanton, New Hampshire. Born to Levi Horton Mudgett and Theodate Page Price, his lineage traced back to the earliest English settlers in the region. His formative years saw him attend Phillips Exeter Academy, and he graduated with honors from Gilmanton Academy at the age of 16. Holmes' parents were devout Methodists. His father, hailing from a farming family, juggled roles as a farmer, trader, and house painter. Unfortunately, he was also known as a heavy drinker who treated his family with cruelty. Holmes faced schoolyard bullying due to his exceptional academic prowess. In a particularly distressing incident, he was coerced to stand before a human skeleton, forced to place the skeleton's hands on his face. While initially terrified, Holmes found this experience captivating and transformative, eventually aiding him in conquering his fears. Subsequently, his fascination with death blossomed, leading him to engage in the dissection of animals. On July 4, 1878, Holmes entered matrimony with Clara Lovering in Alton, New Hampshire. Their union produced a sole offspring, Robert Lovering Mudgett, born in Loudon. Robert's path led him to become a certified public accountant and later the city manager of Orlando, Florida. At 18, Holmes commenced studies at the University of Vermont in Burlington, but his discontent prompted him to leave after a year. In 1882, Holmes embarked on a journey at the University of Michigan's Department of Medicine and Surgery, completing his studies in June 1884. During this time, he worked alongside Professor William James Herdman in the anatomy lab, with rumors suggesting they were involved in illicit activities related to obtaining cadavers for study. Holmes had previously apprenticed in New Hampshire under Nahum White, a prominent advocate of human dissection. In later years, when suspicions arose about his criminal activities, Holmes admitted to exploiting cadavers for insurance fraud while in college. Reports from housemates indicated Holmes' physical violence towards Clara. In 1884, before his graduation, Clara returned to New Hampshire, and contact between them dwindled. Holmes relocated to Moores, New York, where rumors circulated of his association with a missing young boy. Holmes asserted that the boy returned to his Massachusetts home, and no formal investigation occurred before he left town. He then journeyed to Philadelphia, briefly serving as an attendant at Norristown State Hospital before leaving after a short stint. While employed at a pharmacy in the city, a child died after ingesting medicine from the store. Holmes denied any wrongdoing and swiftly departed Philadelphia. Prior to settling in Chicago, he adopted the name Henry Howard Holmes to evade potential exposure from his previous scams. In late 1886, though still legally wed to Clara, Holmes married Myrta Belknap in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He initiated divorce proceedings against Clara, alleging her infidelity, but the case faltered due to lack of evidence. The divorce was ultimately dismissed on June 4, 1891. Meanwhile, Holmes and Myrta had a daughter named Lucy Theodate Holmes, born on July 4, 1889, in Chicago's Englewood neighborhood. Lucy later became a public school teacher. Holmes shared a residence with Myrta and Lucy in Wilmette, Illinois, while dedicating most of his time to business matters. Despite this, he wed Georgiana Yoke on January 17, 1894, in Denver, Colorado, all the while maintaining his marriages to both Clara and Myrta. Upon his arrival in Chicago in August of 1886, Holmes adopted the alias H. Holmes. Shortly after reaching the city, he stumbled upon a drugstore located at the intersection of South Wallace Avenue and West 63rd Street in Englewood. Elizabeth Holton, the proprietor of the drugstore, offered Holmes a job, where he demonstrated his industriousness and eventually procured ownership of the establishment. A notable twist occurred when Holmes acquired an empty lot opposite the drugstore. In 1887, construction commenced on a two-story edifice with a multifunctional design, apartments on the upper level and retail spaces, including a new drugstore, on the ground floor. A legal dispute arose when Holmes chose not to compensate the architects and the Etna Iron and Steel Company, leading to a court case in 1888. By 1892, he expanded the building to include a third floor, allegedly planning to operate it as a hotel during the upcoming World's Columbian Exposition. Contemporary narratives suggest that Holmes conceived the hotel as a trap for expo visitors, aiming to murder them and sell their skeletons to nearby medical institutions. Although he had a record of supplying pilfered cadavers to medical schools, these transactions were rooted in grave robbing rather than outright murder. Additionally, no evidence supports claims that Holmes committed homicides on the premises during the exposition. The sensationalist media branded the structure as the Murder Castle, embellishing its features with tales of concealed torture chambers, trapdoors, gas execution chambers, and an underground crematory. However, these sensational allegations were baseless. Some accounts depicted the hotel as a sprawling labyrinth with over 100 rooms, characterized by perplexing layouts of doors leading to solid walls, windowless spaces, and dead-end stairways. In reality, the third-floor hotel was of modest proportions, lacking distinctiveness, and remained unfinished due to Holmes' conflicts with the construction team. Concealed rooms did exist, but their function revolved around stashing furniture Holmes had obtained on credit without the intent to pay. Following Holmes' arrest, the hotel endured a fire initiated by an unknown arsonist. Despite this setback, it underwent substantial reconstruction and was repurposed as a post office until 1938. Alongside the notorious Murder Castle, Holmes possessed a single-story factory, ostensibly intended for glass bending. Uncertainty persists regarding whether the factory's furnace ever fulfilled this purpose. Speculation suggested it might have served as a means to eradicate incriminating evidence tied to Holmes' criminal undertakings. During his tenure at the Chemical Bank building on Dearborn Street, Holmes crossed paths with Benjamin Freeland Pittazel, a 38-year-old carpenter with a checkered history. Pittazel was presenting an invention, a coal bin, in the same building and soon developed a close bond with Holmes. Utilizing Pittazel as his trusted partner, Holmes involved him in various illicit enterprises. Later, a district attorney described Pittazel as Holmes's instrument and his creation. Facing mounting pressure from insurance companies due to arson allegations, Holmes departed Chicago in July 1894. His reappearance took place in Fort Worth, where he inherited property from the Williams sisters situated at the junction of modern Commerce Street and 2nd Street. Here, he embarked on another venture, attempting to construct an unfinished edifice while evading payment to suppliers and contractors. In that same month of 1894, Holmes faced his initial arrest and brief imprisonment for selling mortgaged goods in St. Louis, Missouri. He swiftly secured bail, during which he initiated a conversation with Marion Hedgepeth, an incarcerated outlaw. Their discourse led Holmes to conceive a plan to swindle an insurance company out of $10,000 by orchestrating his own death and collecting the payout. This scheme involved Hedgepeth introducing Holmes to a trustworthy attorney, Jephthah Howe, in St. Louis. Howe found the plan ingenious and agreed to participate. However, Holmes' plot to feign his demise faltered when the insurance company grew suspicious and declined the payout. Holmes then formulated a similar scheme with Pittazel. Pittazel, along with Holmes and Howe, hatched a plan for Pittazel to stage his death to permit his wife to collect a $10,000 life insurance policy. To execute this in Philadelphia, Pittazel adopted the persona B.F. Perry as an inventor, planning to perish in a laboratory explosion with subsequent disfigurement. Holmes was tasked with procuring a suitable cadaver to impersonate Pittazel. Tragically, on September 4, 1894, Holmes murdered Pittazel by rendering him unconscious using chloroform and subsequently immolating his body with benzene. In his confession, Holmes indicated that Pittazel might have remained alive after chloroform exposure before the fire. However, forensic evidence presented during Holmes' subsequent trial demonstrated that chloroform was administered post-mortem, an element unbeknownst to the insurance company. This manipulation aimed to fabricate a suicide scenario, potentially absolving Holmes of murder charges. Upon securing the insurance payout with the authentic Pitzel corpse, Holmes embarked on a further deception involving Pitzel's unsuspecting wife, Carrie Alice Canning. Holmes manipulated her into relinquishing custody of 3 out of her 5 children. Holmes, along with these children, traveled through the northern U.S. and into Canada, all while adopting various aliases and deceiving Carrie about her husband's whereabouts. In Detroit, just before crossing into Canada, their paths were mere blocks apart. Employing an even bolder strategy, Holmes maintained his presence at a different location with his current wife, all the while concealing these machinations from her. Subsequently, he admitted to the murder of Alice and Nellie Pitzel on October 25, 1894. Holmes enticed them into a large trunk, locked them inside, and asphyxiated them by feeding a hose from the trunk lid to a gas line. He interred their naked bodies within the cellar of his rental house on 16 St. Vincent Street in Toronto. Detective Frank Geyer, assigned to investigate Holmes and locate the missing children, uncovered the decomposed remains of the 2 Pitzel girls in the Toronto dwelling. Geyer recounted, "The deeper we dug, the more horrifying the smell became, and when we reached a depth of 3 feet, we stumbled upon what appeared to be a forearm bone from a human being." Subsequently, Geyer's investigation led him to a rental cottage in Indianapolis, where Holmes had purportedly purchased drugs to kill Howard Pitzel on October 10, 1894, and sharpened knives used to dismember the body before incineration. The boy's dental and skeletal fragments were discovered within the Holmes chimney. Holmes' reign of murder came to an end with his arrest in Boston on November 17, 1894. The Pinkerton National Detective Agency, in a concerted effort, had tracked him from Philadelphia to this location. His detainment was on the grounds of an outstanding warrant for horse theft in Texas, prompted by growing suspicions about Holmes and his apparent intent to escape the country alongside his unsuspecting third wife. By this point, Holmes' dark activities had attracted intense scrutiny, compelling his apprehension. In the aftermath of the discovery of the bodies of Alice and Nellie, Chicago police and journalists launched investigations into Holmes' establishment in Englewood, now infamously dubbed the Castle. While numerous sensational claims emerged, no concrete evidence was found in Chicago that could conclusively convict Holmes. The turning point arrived in October 1895 when Holmes faced trial for the murder of Benjamin Pitzel. He was subsequently found guilty and sentenced to death. The investigation also unveiled Holmes' responsibility for the deaths of the 3 missing Pitzel children. Following his conviction, Holmes admitted to 27 murders across Chicago, Indianapolis, and Toronto, alongside 6 attempted murders. His confession was prompted by a $7,500 payment from the Hearst newspapers. As Holmes composed his confessions behind bars, he reflected upon the drastic alterations in his facial appearance since his imprisonment. On May 7, 1896, Holmes met his demise through hanging at Moyamensing Prison for the murder of Pitzel. Despite the looming execution, Holmes exhibited an outward demeanor of calmness and affability, displaying minimal signs of fear or distress. Nevertheless, Holmes made a peculiar request that his coffin be encased in cement and buried 10 feet deep, fueled by concerns of grave robbers using his remains for dissection. When the execution took place, Holmes' neck did not snap, leading to his slow strangulation, a process that spanned over 15 minutes before his official pronouncement of death. Holmes' lifeless body was laid to rest in an unmarked grave at Holy Cross Cemetery in Yeadon, Pennsylvania, a suburb of Philadelphia. In a twist of fate, Marion Hedgepeth, who had been pardoned for aiding in Holmes' capture, met his end on New Year's Eve 1909, shot by a police officer during a hold-up. Patrick Quinlan, the former caretaker of the castle, met a similar tragic end, committing suicide in 1914 with strychnine. His passing left behind unanswered questions about the mysteries within the castle. The castle itself sustained damage from a fire in August 1895. Evidently caused by incendiary actions, the fire engulfed the building, leading to its partial destruction. Though it endured the blaze, the structure served its purpose until its demolition in 1938. The site now houses the Englewood branch of the United States Postal Service. In 2017, amidst rumors that Holmes had eluded execution, his remains were exhumed for scientific examination led by Janet Monge from the University of Pennsylvania Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology. Due to the cement-sealed casket, Holmes' body had not undergone typical decomposition. His clothing remained remarkably preserved, and even his mustache retained its form. The use of dental records confirmed his identity. Following these tests, Holmes was reinterred.